Welcome to sizzlehearts.com, where you can find love, connect with like-minded professionals, and unlock your truest purpose. Today's video is brought to you by To advertise your business to our growing community of international professionals, visit sizzlehearts.com and see our plans. We welcome you now to today's video. Hi everyone, welcome to another interview from sizzlehearts.com. We're so thrilled to have with us Susan McCord, aka Dear Sybersue, and she's from Vancouver in Canada. This is such an honor and a pleasure to have you here today. Should I call you Susan or Sybersue for this interview?
Whatever you want. I answer both. I'm good. Basically, what happens with self-sabotage, it's an internal dialogue that's playing in your head all the time. It's sort of a negative feedback. And what it does is it keeps telling you that, you know, you're not good enough, or you're not worthy, or you just get all these little voices that keep coming in there and stop you from finding love. And the majority of it is that negative internal voice that you've had for a long time. And the other part is just not believing you deserve it. That's a big one. There's definitely a difference, but when it comes right down to it, it's still that negative dialogue. But with women, we're much more emotional. Okay. And I don't want to generalize too much here, but let's face it. I mean, we deal with our emotions and we're very out there with our emotions. A lot of men hide them. Maybe they were told at a younger age, you know, be a man, do this, do that. And so they do shut themselves off. They don't feel comfortable allowing themselves to express their feelings. So what happens with them is if they get hurt, and this happens a fair bit, and people that I've coached, men that I've coached, have told me that they have a really hard time getting over that one really tough breakup that happened where they were really in love and they were at a younger age. And so they hold on to get a little bit jaded about it because they don't want to go through it again, because they're not used to dealing with a lot of emotion. And when you love somebody and you break up with them, there's definite emotion that comes into play. You can't avoid that. And so a lot of guys have told me they just don't know how to deal with it. And whereas women become very emotionally attached very quickly, especially if they jump into bed quickly. And that's a big one for a lot of women. And so they sabotage without understanding that they're repeating the patterns. The men are repeating the patterns of not trusting themselves, not trusting women, and women are doing the, you know, sort of go into bed really quickly and fall in love really fast, when really it's lust. But they repeat it. And so a lot of that would be the most general answer I can give you for what men and women. And unfortunately, it does happen a lot. And even though they know it, they're not really owning it. And once you own your stuff is when you can move on. This is the one thing that you will find with anybody you talk to in your business and my business, that people sabotage it without realizing it sometimes. And until they address it and own it, they're going to keep doing it. So this will be a good message to people. So being judgmental and too picky. And what happens here, people become, they have a certain sort of checklist that's way too long sometimes. And they're going through them all and they want everybody to meet all of those situations. Well, nobody can live up to that. I always suggest having 5 really good characteristics on a list that are important to you. There has to be some kind of a chemistry, obviously, but it should be, some people put looks as number 1 and has to have money. And so what happens is their checklist is so big that they sabotage anybody from being able to come in. How are they going to come in when they can't meet all those things you have on your list? But so many people have huge checklists. that's why I say to people, just have a few really strong points on your list that are important to you, because we all should have some expectations. People think that you shouldn't have expectations. It should just be as is. No, you have to have some expectations in a relationship and boundaries. So meaning you go on 1 or 2 dates and you want everything to boom, 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 flow. Everything's perfect. Wow. And isn't by the 3rd or 4th date, you're gone. Sometimes it happens on the 1st date. No, and that's also the too picky comes in the same thing of wanting instant gratification. Correct. So they all kind of blend together a little bit here. But the instant gratification. Okay, sorry guys, I'm going to say this one. Sometimes men want to get into bed very quickly. And some women will go along with it because they think if they don't, the guy's not going to be interested or want to see them again. But they want instant gratification because they are about the sexual chemistry. The guys, they want to know right away that this is a good fit. But unfortunately, what happens with women, when they jump into bed really quickly, their emotional stuff comes into play. Mm-hmm. Whereas guys, maybe not so, right? Because we talked about that they're not always as emotional as women. Right. So what happens? The women can become clingy. Like, oh my God, this guy's everything to me. Oh, it was so great. And then she wants more because she has different expectations after she has sex. Usually, I have a line that I talk to my clients about. If you go in fast with somebody, you usually go out fast. Wow. Sure. It doesn't usually stand the test of time because there's too much on the table too quickly. You need to get to know each other slowly and be able to trust them and trust yourself that you've made the right choice. Am I repeating a pattern again? Should I stand back and just sort of take my time and get to see what this person's about? Because sex, when you have sex with somebody really quickly, it plays with your head, especially for women. So a lot of people, by telling somebody your flaws, or I mean, that happened to you a long time ago, or maybe you just got out of jail six years ago or something like that. You're telling them this on the first date or the first encounter, or even the 3rd encounter. They don't need to know all of these things. Put out your best attributes. So many people, and I'm saying this is quite a big one. So many people want to say, or even talk about maybe their breakup or their marriage falling apart or their whatever, their ex, that's a big one, right? And so when you're telling people these negative things, why would they want to jump in with you? Because you're throwing out everything that isn't good, and rather than pointing out and just being. But people do that because they think if I get it out of the way and they still like me, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. No, not really, because all you've given them to think about is your negative qualities. And they're maybe not even negative. It's just you're trying to get that out there, to get it out of the way. Women tend to do that because they might be a little bit insecure about their bodies. So they'll make little things like, oh yeah, well, I've got some weight to lose. And so they're saying stuff rather than saying positive things and making the date fun. It becomes more about that sort of stuff. So it kind of goes a segue into the other one. Correct. You can be sitting there. Sounds like what I'm doing right now, giving too much information. But talking and blabbing, and then example. I went on a date, this is years ago, with a guy who talked so much about himself, which was great because I wanted to get to know him. Mm-hmm. But by the end of it, he didn't know really anything about me. He didn't even know I had a child. Right. And so you have to make sure that the conversation is reciprocated, and don't give out, especially for women here, do not give out information when you don't know somebody, because you have to get to know them and to be able to trust them. And so if you're giving out so much information about everything, what's left for them to figure out down the road? And also you don't know about the safety factor yet either, right? But also, if you're giving out so much information in the first couple of days, there's no more mystery. There's no more excitement for when they're going to see you again because they know everything already. Mm. So baby steps, give a little bit, but not everything. Hold back some of that good quality stuff, Now, this one may sound shallow, but it's not. When you're first meeting somebody, first impressions are lasting impressions. You don't have to be gorgeous or super handsome. It's about how you come across with your confidence, how you put yourself together, that you actually care. You care about somebody and you're putting an effort in, and you care about yourself.
Yes.
And if you care about yourself, that's a good thing to portray. If you come out there like you don't care and you're lackadaisical, I can never say that word properly. You're lazy about how, oh, whatever. If they don't like me, too bad. This is who I am. And that attitude can happen a lot. Oh, whatever. This is who I am. Like it, take it or leave it. Put some energy into your presentation. So you're just repeating. And this can happen with a lot of people who are serial daters. And when they're there's a lot of that out there, because first of all, a lot of them like the excitement of a new date. So that's one thing. Another is, and this can happen with guys, because if they don't want a commitment, or they're afraid of a commitment, or they're jaded from a past relationship, they'll just serial date because they won't get hurt. Patterns are really big with people. Dating the bad boy, dating the bad girl, dating the high maintenance girl. And they keep going back because they're attracted to that. They're attracted to that sort of, it's sabotage though, because you're attracted to something that isn't working for you.
Correct.
What happens is you just keep replaying. And especially if it's childhood dialogue, it keeps playing and playing and playing. You have to, if this is happening to you and you're repeating a lot of things that aren't working for you, it's really good to talk to somebody, because that might be all you need, is one talk with somebody that they can figure out where it's stuck. Because subconsciously, they may not be aware that that is there. They may not even know. You keep saying, what's wrong? Why aren't things working out? Well, as I said earlier, you have to own why it's not working out, because you're in charge of who you attract towards you. You're the one that lets them in.
True.
So if you're not paying attention or repeating who you're letting in, that's where the problems are. And that is sabotage, because you're repeating a pattern that isn't working because you're listening to something up here. It's actually really cool, because once you get the hang of it, and what isn't working and what causes it, it's so enlightening, because then you feel like this big weight lifted off you. If you start your day every morning with a positive thought rather than what isn't working for you, it really changes the way the rest of your day goes.
Correct.
And when you go on a date, say, this is going to be great. I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be great. But people put in their head, oh, let's see what happens to this one. Are they going to ghost me? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? So that's kind of what goes on with a lot of people's heads.
But as we draw to a close with this, so we have established the reasons behind the sabotage. What is the fix?
I think the big trick here for a lot of people is to understand finding love is a full-time job, but it's a great job.
Wow.
Because if it was that easy to find love and to find your person, wouldn't that be boring? And every single person that walked in our life would be the person? The trick is, I always say, equate it to going and looking or getting your career. How long does it take most people to get the job they love? A lot of people go to school for 5 years. Some, if doctors and lawyers, go to school for longer.
Yeah.
And then those people have got a lot less romantic experience because they've been very focused on their studies. Yeah. So this can also be a problem for a lot of driven people, but there's always love for everybody. And look at me getting married at 50. You know, I had a surprise wedding, and all the people at my wedding were shocked, but they also told me it gave them hope. But the thing is that we all have problems with love, but the sooner we own it, own our part, because we always play a part. It's not just the blame game on somebody else. And when we own that and say, well, how can I change this? What am I doing? Ask a friend, ask a family member that you trust. Am I doing something that's causing me to have this repetitive drama or things that aren't working out? Yeah. If you can't figure it out yourself, get a coach, get a therapist if it's more deep rooted. But the biggest thing is if you sit down and look at the relationships that you've had in the past, is there a sequence or a pattern here? Are they all completely different? Do I know what I want in my life? There's all sorts of things you can sort of look at.
To advertise your business to our growing community of international professionals, go to sizzlehearts.com and check out our plans.